Hi, Remnant Church. My name is Eric, and I feel so blessed to be up here today sharing my testimony. I come from a family of devout Buddhists, but grew up not really thinking about religion all that much. Well, that changed in junior year of high school during a volunteer trip in Thailand with my friend David Moon, who I'm sure many of you have the pleasure of knowing. One night, I shared with David a few things that were weighing on my mind. College apps, what I want to do with my life, and all the classic teenage worries. And in response, David shared how his relationship with God helped him navigate times of stress and anxiety. That conversation from 10 years ago planted a deep seed in my heart. When I returned home, I told my dad about my newfound curiosity and faith, but to my disappointment, he wasn't very supportive. What about our Buddhist family traditions? He asked. Don't you know how devout our family is? Well, something within me, partly spiritual curiosity and partly teenage rebellion, pushed me to brush his discouragement aside and continue exploring my faith. I began attending church in secret, telling my parents I was hanging out with friends every Sunday at exactly the same time. But it would be many years later that I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. As the first few years of my faith journey were filled with resistance. I felt resistance internally as I wrestled with difficult questions about the Bible and attempted to rewire how I understood the world. And just as strongly, I also felt resistance externally at the idea that my dad and I would always be at odds when it came to the topic of religion. I feared that as my faith deepened, the distance between me and my dad would widen. Over the years, I noticed that I was becoming more knowledgeable about Christianity, but these forces of resistance kept me from fully taking that leap of faith into God's arms. Ironically, after many years of feeling stuck in this stage, the person who almost discouraged me from pursuing faith in the first place became the motivation for me to ultimately take that leap. You see, as I tried to understand the depths of God's unconditional love, I found myself thinking about my dad a lot. In classic Asian fashion, he rarely tells me that he loves me, but I can always feel his love from halfway across the world. And despite the differences my dad and I have had, the closest thing to God's love I knew was my dad's. And that realization enabled me to do two things. One, it allowed me to immerse myself in my dad's love at a level I had never experienced. And two, it allowed me to fully immerse myself in God's love for the first time, as I started to feel his love everywhere, starting with my dad, and then from the rest of my family, my friends, and my brothers and sisters here at Remnant. That pushed me to set aside my differences with my dad and open up to him about my faith. This January, on my visit back to Korea, I told my dad everything. I told him I have two fathers. I said, don't worry, the other one's pretty cool too. As I'm talking, I noticed that my dad is smiling. He's nodding. And when I finish talking, he shares that he's been ready to embrace my Christian identity for a long time, and he had been patiently waiting for me to bring it up. Little did I know, God had already been working in his heart all along. 1 John 3:8 reminds us, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. God is love. He is the love that heals. He is the love that unites. He is the love that drew me and my dad closer than ever. And I'm incredibly excited to find out the unbounded love that God has in store for each and every one of us. Thank you.